Okay. Yeah. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So, what I'd like to do is just to kind of, as I've done on some of my other um, uh, broadcasts or streams, which you can see below if you come check this out afterwards. I like to show some of the walks that I do. I like to walk in cities. I like to check out new cities. And whenever you need a break, it's always great to sit down, have a coffee or a tea or a beer. But of course, there's so many record stores to check out as well. And of course, many of you already know that Japan is well known as a mecca for record collecting, particularly for jazz records, and that's really what I'm here to talk about today. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of the stories that I was able to fit in my schedule when I was in Tokyo, and also when I was in Kyoto, and lastly in Osaka. So I was obviously busy with work and many other things when I was there. So these are the ones that I just kind of had the time to drop in on. But of course, I I had an opportunity to take an hour here, an hour there, so it was quite fruitful. Anyway, so let's start. Let me pull up my map here. Here's a map of Tokyo. Let me zoom out first. Those of you who don't know the city, this should be a good video. Those of you who are interested in checking out Japan. Oddly, or not oddly, but the price of the value of the yen rather is quite low. So I'm hearing that that's really pulling a lot of people to Tokyo and other the major cities in Japan. But anyway, so actually I was staying up here. You can see that I've kind of tagged my maps. I don't know if other people do that, but that's the way I kind of keep track of restaurants and places and record stores I want to visit. But I was staying over in this neighborhood, Asakusa, I believe it's called, kind of on the opposite side of downtown. This is downtown Tokyo. So it was up here. Most of the record buying areas of the city or are over here on the, what's that? That would be the west side of Tokyo. So only about 20 minutes on the subway from downtown and about 50 minutes from Asakusa, where I was staying. So there's two parts of the city that are well known for having good record stores, and one is Shibuya down here that I'll talk about a little bit, and then the one just to the north is Shinjuku. So first weekend I was in Tokyo. This is where I went. This is the site of the so-called Shibuya Scramble, which that's a really bad picture. It doesn't. What's that? A Shibuya Scramble. If you didn't know any better, be like, the Scramble is a dog, is a bronze statue of a dog. So weird. They don't even have any pictures of the Scramble. What's happening? What is going on? Google. Anyway, so the Scramble, of course, is you see it on a lot of videos where there's a whole bunch of people crossing the street there, but I didn't really care so much about that. I was more interested in checking out Tower Records. I was actually just watching an interesting documentary the other day on Tower Records. I really highly recommend it. Can't remember the title. If you remember the title, or maybe I'll put the title down in the comment section, but highly recommend it. It's here's a great photo. Unlike the Scramble, there's a great photo of Tower Records. Let's see if you can see how tall it is. I think there's got to be at least 8 stories. There isn't really a great picture of how tall it is, but it is in fact a tower. Surprise, surprise. And so let's zoom in a little bit more here. So I'm going to say the jazz floor was on the, I don't know, one of the upper floors of 6th or 7th floor, something like that. And whole floor of the record store. It's I would say it was a fairly good collection there. and kind of a mix between kind of overpriced or very expensive kind of original Blue Notes and Prestige and Riverside and kind of everything else. So typically, I kind of learned really quickly that the place to go to, hardly surprising, is kind of the new arrivals. And it wasn't just because they were fresher, right? And that there were some good finds there, but it was also because the prices tended to be much better. And oddly, the condition as well. So it just seemed like things, and this is I would say this for almost all the stores that I went to, particularly the larger stores, that when I arrived, went through, quickly realized that the new arrivals were really great deals, and a lot of stuff that I was looking for as well. I did flip through the artist bins as well. They use the first name of the artist, not the last name, so that kind of threw me off sometimes. I believe maybe at Tower Records as well, that they also organize some jazz records in or by the leader's instrument, so whether or not you're a drummer or sax or trumpet, whatever it is. But so it was my first store. I didn't want to buy a lot. There was a lot of stuff there that I was interested in, but I ended up just walking up with one record. I had a list. I think it's important to have a list. I try to keep my Discogs wish list up to date, but that's hard to do. I'm busy. So I just kind of went by the list in my head, and of course had my phone in my hand as well. So would highly recommend Tower Records. Again, I kind of get the sense that's a place that when it has a big dump of new, meaning used LPs, that you'd find a whole lot of great discs. So anyway, so from let me pull up the map again. All right, so that's Tower Records. From Tower Records, I walked over to the Disc Union Jazz and Rare Groove store. Doesn't seem to be any images there. Oh, there's a few here. Let me pull up a couple. Anyway, that's a nice picture. Was pretty funny actually when I arrived there. It took me a little while to get there, because of course the Google Maps is really good for a city that's horizontal, but as some of you may know, Tokyo is a very vertical city. A lot of the record stores are either in the basement on the first or second floor. Those are mostly the independent ones, and then the larger stores that have multiple outlets like Disc Union, like Tower, HMV, they tend to be fourth, fifth, sixth floor, as I said before. This was no different. What was fun about the Disc Union Jazz and Rare Groove was that you get in the elevator, and when you when the elevator gets to the whatever floor it was, I think it was the fifth floor, the door opens and boom, you're right there. You don't go into a hallway, so it's just bustling, and you just see all these great albums. So it was pretty exciting. This again, let's zoom through, see if there's some other pictures there. I think that's probably the best one. Here's another good one. The new arrivals bins here, and they had probably about, I don't know, probably about 4 or 5 of them. So it took me a good 15 minutes to flip through there. Great selection. I think this was one of my top 3 stores. And again, you get the sense that some of it's picked through, but it just so happened that there was that the new arrivals seemed to be quite fresh for sure. So I picked up 2 or 3 albums from there as well. There we go, fifth floor, Disc Union. Okay, so that's Disc Union. Disc Union, I would say that almost any of the Disc Union stores will have a selection of jazz records. There is another jazz record store, Disc Union record store, that I wasn't able to make it to, and I've heard very good things about that as well. Some of the other stores, I visited one other. Let's pull that one up. Also had a smaller selection of jazz. Let's see if we can zero in. Here it is. The Disc Union at the Parco, which the Parco is the name. There's an image there. Is the name of the shopping mall actually. So that again took me forever. This one was in the basement, surrounded by all these really wonderful Japanese restaurants. And in the middle of this hustle and bustle, there's a disc union. I'm going to say that here, let's pull up this image. Here you can see the bins at the end. These are all the jazz selection here at the far end. There's some jazz collectibles on the wall. Again, a smaller selection, but I'd have to say that I think I probably bought the most albums of any store from this one, from the Parco, Disc Union Parco. And you can see up here that on the left, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor actually. Anyway, at the kind of middle left, there's a whole bunch of, again, new arrivals, a lot of OJCs, a lot of Blue Note reissues, early 70s reissues. So really great selection. I was there looking for some deals, something under 20 Canadian or under 30 US dollars. And I think my kind of top end was, well, if it was on my list, I think my top end tends to be about $100. But they had a really great selection of albums, well under $25. So I picked up 3 albums. So on another stream, another video, I'm going to show you the albums that I picked up. But I just want to talk a little bit about the stores that I visited today. Okay, so one other store in Shibuya that I want to talk about was Face Records, which is an independent record store. They have a very vibrant, very active, very well stocked online business, and they were my go-to store during COVID. So for me, this was emotionally, if that's the right word, personally, it was important to go check it out, just to kind of see what the space is like, to kind of see if I could say hi and talk a little bit about COVID and how the store was important for me in terms of maintaining connections and getting some new music during the pandemic. So the store, it was a little bit more of a kind of a soul, disco, rare groove, funk, as opposed to jazz. Although they did have some good jazz, funk jazz, some early 70s jazz, which tends to be stuff that I'm quite interested in. So I knew they were going to have that, but it was a smaller collection. It was great though, because they were playing wonderful music. They were playing absolutely fabulous music in there. Let me see if you can pull up a picture. So there's kind of a DJ guy at the end. That's not the best picture anyway. But well worth checking out if you're in Shibuya, if you find yourself in Tokyo. Great music, great scene there. Lots of interesting people looking for albums. Was able to kind of chat with a couple people who are there looking for similar albums to me as well. So it was a really, really fun afternoon. So those are kind of 4 stores: 2 Disc Union, Face Records, and Tower. There's many others in the area. Let me just see if I can pull some up here. I just didn't have the time. There's a Face Records in a mall. Actually, I tried to find that one. I just couldn't find it. Kind of gave up on it. I think there's an HMV around here as well, but I didn't quite make it to it. But anyway, so that's Shibuya. Let's go north here. Kind of a couple weeks later, I went to Shinjuku, which again has a number of stores. There's the Disc Union Jazz CD record store that I went to, and the secondhand store. The secondhand store is, I think it was on the 2nd floor. I went in there. Let's have a look. I think this is the one that has kind of the soundtracks in them, or anyway, it was a curious place, as you can see. Actually, that's a bit better. You can see. They had a smallish selection. Here, that's a better picture there. The bins, there, the soundtracks. Anyway, they had a smaller section of jazz there, and there were some serious collectors in there with big rolling boxes that they were just, obviously on a much more serious buying binge than what I was doing. But again, there was some this. I would say that the used store, even though it was smaller, the quality of the LPs was very good. A lot of kind of classic jazz. I would say less in terms of funk or jazz or other types of jazz. Mostly kind of hard bop there. A lot of kind of classic albums, but there was some good deals. I picked up one or two LPs, I'm going to say there. The What I found that was difficult at this disc union, and in fact at all the stores in Japan, was finding some Japanese albums that I had on my list. So I thought that was a bit weird that I couldn't find the albums that I was looking for. I kind of, I'm going to Japan. I want to find the albums that were only released in Japan, and I guess those are very popular. And I just didn't see many of them anywhere. Anyhow, so that was so I just stopped in those two, the jazz CD ones. These were decent. This one I think it's on the second floor, and they also had some jazz on the first floor as well. So sometimes you need to kind of check out multiple levels of stores. And again, this was very well stocked. The quality of the LPs was really excellent. The prices as well. So here I picked up another album as well. So I just want to go through those kind of quickly. But those are the areas that, if you don't have too much time, I would recommend actually Shibuya over Shinjuku. There's just more record stores there. There's more variety of stores. There's some more independent stores, or at least I found more independent stores around there as well, and slightly more interesting area of the city as well. Okay, so that's Tokyo. So from Tokyo, I then moved on to, let's cut back to Kyoto. Kyoto is, those of you who haven't been there, it's a lot different. It's an older city. It's smaller. You're right up next to, as you can see, kind of the mountains here. It's really a kind of quite a beautiful city with lots of temples. That's what it's known for. But let's zero in here. This is kind of the downtown area of Kyoto. Nishiki Market is the very popular, I don't want to call it a tourist market, but there are a lot of tourists in there. Great place to go and check out if you want to have a lunch and check out the local food. But so here, the great thing about, let me zero in a little bit more there. That's a bit better. The great thing about Kyoto is that it's almost like all the record stores are kind of lined up. They're all, I'm going to say, from the south to the north, it's maybe a 15-minute walk between the stores, or between the southernmost and the northernmost store. So let's kind of go through them. I'd have to say that this was I think a little bit more fun than Tokyo. Was a lot of the stores. I was the only one there. Maybe it was also because it was during the week. Probably that helped. But it was just mellower, more doable. I could try to chat with the owner a little bit more. So I kind of enjoyed this experience a little bit more. Okay, so Toradra. I did a total hatchet job on that. This is a store that I went to the last day I was in Kyoto. The owner was playing some really great reggae music, so I was having a good time just listening to the music. They had some really great albums, some used recent releases, some record store releases. They had kind of they had Grant Green's what's it called? Funk in France, the 3 LP record store day release from 2 3 years ago. I think that's a 2022 release. That was been on my list for a while. It's an expensive album. I think it's what I'm gonna say. It's about $100 on Discogs, and they were selling it here for about $70. But it's also 3 LPs. My bag's already heavy. These are the kind of decisions you need to make, right, when you're shopping in Japan, because the selection's just so good. Here's a better image there. Whoa, there we go. Let's pull it over so you can see not a huge section. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 bins. Still pretty good, and then some hot stuff here on the wall as well. So um, I if memory serves, yeah, there wasn't. It's not very well organized there. So I went through every single bin, found a lot of really interesting stuff. Prices are very good there. The quality, excellent. I didn't buy anything from this store, but I really enjoyed it. It was a smaller store, a lot of CDs in it, um, and a bigger collection of Japanese LPs here as well. Really enjoyed it. I would highly recommend Toradra Records. Interesting owner, and again, very close to Nishiki Market. Again, highly recommend it. I didn't buy anything, but I'm hedging here because there were a couple albums that I wanted to buy. Okay, back to the map. All right, Prototype Records. I didn't go there. If you did, drop me a comment. Let me know. Workshop is on the second floor, so just up the street here from the market, from the main downtown area. This is kind of where the walk really starts to get interesting. The LP walk, as I like to call it. Workshop Records on the second floor. I think the fellow in there was a smoker. But that's the rock wall. Let me see if I can find. There we go. Yeah, it's not great. Anyway, so you can see that he's got his LPs organized by whether or not they're modern or vocal, and I think other than that, yeah, I think that was another case of okay, I'm just starting to dig here. Um, he had a lot of originals up on the wall here, so it was quite impressive. Fun place to go check out. Again, the prices are very good. There was a new arrival section. I flipped through there, had a couple things in my hand, but actually didn't walk out with anything. But I went back here again because, again, it was a really well organized store. It was very local, or rather, it was very close to where I was staying. So I enjoyed it, but ultimately didn't buy anything, but would, again, highly recommend it. Now, this is Hard Bop, just on the same block as Workshop Records. The City Hall is right here, so again, still quite central. You walk through that door, and I think I posted a note on maybe the Jazz Bums Discord or online somewhere saying you walk through the door and your credit card starts to like make noises like ah. Fabulous place. I walked in here. The whole store is jazz. There's a good store. The new arrivals here on the left. Artists alphabet organized by the alphabet. Again by the first name I believe it was there. Um, you can see here as well that the albums are really tightly packed. Just I don't know what it was, but the stores that I like the most, this one, Hard Bop, and one I'll show you in a minute in Osaka, they just had their stuff absolutely jam packed in there. So it was really hard, and you feel really uncomfortable kind of pulling stuff out and going through. I didn't want to do that. So it was really a bit overwhelming. And also, as I was pulling through to, squinting and trying not to bend the albums because I hate that feeling, you're going through, and I quickly realized that the owner here just had everything. He had he had everything. It was brutal. It was a really brutal experience, and I probably started to perspire a little bit, started to sweat, so like shake a little bit. No, it's a true story. And so effectively, what I did was I thought, okay, listen, I'm going to go back to my wish list. I'm going to go to Lee Morgan. I'm going to go look for this Coltrane album that I wanted, so on and so forth. And every time I did that, the album is there. And in fact, in the case of not Lee Morgan, Jackie Bayard. There were a couple versions of an album that I wanted. So there were all that to say that there was not just one version, but there were multiple versions. There were American versions. There were some OGs in the bins, American originals, and also some OJCs and some Japanese versions as well. Prices here were a little bit higher, I'm going to say, that some of the other stores. So you're just a little bit though. So I still got some great deals here. I walked out with 3 or 4. I think I ended up spending about, again, not a lot, maybe $125 here on 4 LPs. That's pretty decent. And I think 3 of them were on my wish list and have been on my wish list for a very long time. So yeah, so that's Hard Bop. I think they said they accepted credit cards, but he asked for cash. Very old fellow. A lot of the independent jazz record stores are run by dudes who are old, very old. Anyway, friendly enough dude, but just an absolutely incredible selection of jazz LPs. Would highly, highly recommend it. Okay, where are we now? So that's Hard Bop. There's one other one that I skipped over, and then we'll head down to Osaka. Where are we? Here it is. It just hasn't popped up. You can see. There we go. Poco a Poco. In the mall. In the kind of pedestrian mall. It's not like an American mall, right? Or even it's not like a Western mall. Anyway, it's down in the basement. When you walk down there, there was all these boxes. It was slightly disorganized. Maybe that's a bit too harsh, but it took me a few minutes to kind of figure out if these were new arrivals. It seemed like they were kind of new arrival collections. So I think there was some soundtracks, and it said there was some jazz, but I flipped through it. It wasn't all that much. Let me see if I can find a picture inside. No one's taken any good pictures. Oh well. Oh, this one's probably the best actually. There we go. Oh, here we go. See, right at the base here, the bottom left of the picture, you'll see so some albums were on sale. Some, I don't know, there were collections, soundtracks, whatever. Slightly weird. Came in here, passed by the T-shirts, and on the left-hand wall, I think it's a good part. I'm going to say about at least half the store is jazz LPs. Less in terms of the new arrivals, mostly organized by name, if memory serves me. So picked up a couple LPs here. Prices were fairly decent. I think this owner of the store is quite well known, and I've heard that again. It like many stores, it goes up and down depending on what's come in at any given day. And I would say it was a fairly decent selection there. It wasn't as good as Hard Bop, of course. But I found some good Japanese versions of LPs that were on my wish list. So this is where I did find some good Japanese versions. Okay, so that's Poco Poco. All right. So again, I think also, Tokyo is just so hustly bustly. I just found it a little bit more relaxing. Just a little bit more fun, a little bit more mellow to check out record stores in Kyoto. You can see I've tagged a couple others that I wasn't able to go to. Art Rock, Committee Records. So there's Joe's Garage over here. I didn't make it to. That's actually Jazz Kisa, I believe. Jazz. Anyhow, that's for another topic for another day. All right, Okay, so the last couple stores I want to talk about were in Osaka. Let's flip back to the map. I just want to show you. So a lot of people just go to visitors from the West often just go to Tokyo. Let's pull out here. Whoa. Take the fast train, the Shinkansen, the bullet train to Kyoto, and then head back. But you can see how close Kyoto is to Osaka here. And in fact, I would say it's really like a suburb or an exurb from Osaka. In fact, you can get I think a fast train is about 45 minutes. I don't know. Here in Toronto, it takes me half an hour to get to work. So listen, it's well worth, if you have an afternoon or have multiple days in Kyoto, to head down to Osaka. Really, really, really fun town. Different from Tokyo, has a different vibe, different kind of culture there, and a very vibrant youth culture there. All right, so let's zoom in and talk. There's Osaka Castle over there, a big tourist venue location. But I want to talk about, okay, there's basically two areas to go, or centers, if you will, of record shopping in Osaka. One is in the north, okay, near Osaka Station. There's a disc union there. You can see the green ones. The green ones are basically saying that I didn't have enough time to go to them. Okay, so there is a disc union. I've heard very good things about it, and I believe, yeah, there's a Jazz Records Seed. I've heard decent things about that store as well. So that's kind of the northern downtown section, and then there's a southern downtown section, which I think is a bit more vibrant. The Dotonbury's, the river down here. There's a lot of great places to go drinking and eating. There's a wonderful market down here as well. And then there's an area just north of the more well-known tourist area of Osaka called Amerikamura. It's an American district. I don't know if that's a literal translation, but that's Greg's translation for you. And there are quite a number of record stores just on the northern edge of the American district. So let's zero in on a few here. Sorry, I'm having a hard time finding the one that is that it. There we go. I would say next to Hard Bop and the Disc Union Jazz Amer Groove in Tokyo, this was my favorite store. Okay. Marukabatsu is the name of the store. It was great here as well because I was walking home late from a late dinner, and I think they were open till at least 9 or 10. Could have been 10 o'clock. So I popped in there probably about 7:30 or 8 after dinner. Popped in. It's run by a really nice couple, and at the front here, near the door at the far end of this picture, there's again probably about, I'm going to say there's probably about 6 or 7 bins. Unfortunately, again, incredibly kind of packed in there, super tight. They had, like Hard Bop, a wonderful collection. Again, a mix of kind of early 70s Blue Note reissues, Japanese reissues, King and Toshiba reissues from the 70s, both very high quality. And also, just when you pick them out, they look new. These are all used albums, but the covers were in excellent condition. Most of the LPs had OBs. I'm just going to say that the prices were higher than many of the other, well, probably almost all of the record stores I've showed you during the stream, but they were still good comparatively speaking, and there were a bunch of LPs here that I'd never seen before, and I picked up a couple LPs here. Really great place. So slightly more expensive, but again, I can't. There's no complaints. Highly recommended. The other record store I want to show you, let's cut back, is the record store called the Rare Groove. Now, I was looking at this earlier today as I was kind of preparing my some thoughts. Um, and there's a nice picture actually. So I think they were on the second or third floor, I'm going to say, of this building, and it's a really interesting building because there's maybe two or three floors, and there's tons of small little businesses. There's some clothing stores, there's some fashion stores, some boutiques, hairstylists, and there must have been probably about, I'm going to say, at least six, maybe seven record stores as well. You don't see it on the map. Let me just zip back. So if you go to Google Map, I think actually this one is the only one that showed up, the Rare Groove. But again, it's a really interesting building. So I could have spent probably, I don't know, 2-3 hours in there. But there's two stores that really specialized in more funk and jazz, and one was a Rare Groove, and the other one I can't remember the name of. Smaller selection. They had some Japanese only releases there of funk albums that I hadn't seen anywhere else, or that were going for quite a premium on eBay or on Discogs. Some HMV record store day releases, I think is what they're called. Nice pink OBs. I'll show you what I picked up on my next stream. But anyway, it's well worth checking out. There's like a rockabilly record store in there, and a disco one, a rock one. So I was mostly there for the kind of the funk and jazz and Rare Groove, and there were, like I said, two really great ones. But there's something for everyone in that building. So that really kind of popped out, and was a surprise, and really had a great time there, and picked up, as I said, a couple albums as well. So there you go. So there's a very quick review of my 2 weeks in Japan. There's many